Hello everyone, my name's Kate. I'm the founder of Educated STEM, and today I'm joined by a friend of mine, and we're going to be talking to you about the things we wish we had known when we started our PhD. Today we're going to cover mindset, but I'm going to let Shayla introduce herself.
Yes, so I'm Dr. Shayla Vradenburgh, and I'm the CEO and founder of Revolting Science Resources, where the goal is essentially to bring the principles of project management to academic scientists. But today I'm excited to do this video and chat a little about some things I wish I knew.
So we're going to do 5 separate videos on this. We've broken down our list of things we wish we'd known into 5 separate topics. Today we're covering mindset, and you're going to have to jump between mine and Shayla's YouTube pages to see all of the videos if you want to see all of them. But starting with mindset, the first thing I want to say everybody needs to know before they go into doing their PhD is that you shouldn't compare yourself to others, because everyone progresses at their own pace. And so the thing that got me when I was doing my PhD was I was not confident when I did public speaking. And a friend of mine who was in my PhD program was an amazing public speaker. And my supervisor would say, Kate, why can't you be more like Colin? And Colin loved being up on the stage. He was obviously delighted to be there, and I just didn't. And I actually got sent off to presentation skills course to improve. And I did get better, and I'm obviously more comfortable presenting because I now do it for a living. But he is a high school biology teacher. And so he presents from 9 to 5 every day, all day. That's what he does. And he is obviously made for that, and I'm not. But if I had compared myself to him, I might have thought I wasn't cut out for this sort of thing. I might never have gone on to do a postdoc, because obviously presenting is a huge part of being a scientist. And I've seen this play out amongst all of the graduate students that I used to be an associate dean for, as they compared themselves to their classmates and to other people, and they could psych themselves out, and just they wouldn't think that they belonged in the program doing a PhD, whether they should be in science, just because they were comparing themselves to others who were doing their own thing, and they were just progressing at their own pace. Not everyone is going to get a Nature paper. Not everyone is going to go to a conference every single year. So if you're comparing yourself to others as they go through their successes, your successes are coming. You just have to wait it out.
Yeah, and I think, connected to a lot of the things you were saying about just not feeling maybe like you belong, and, struggling with this level of comparison and feeling like you're behind. I think one of the things I wish I knew when I was doing my PhD is that the goal here is to learn. You don't need to know everything coming in. You don't need to be perfect at everything. As soon as you start working in a lab or starting grad school, at the end of the day, it's a learning opportunity. And so I think that's something that I struggled with, was like the sense of imposter syndrome. I felt like I don't know as much as other people did right out the gate when we started our PhD programs. But at the end of the day, I learned it all. I still got a PhD. I gained a wide number of skills that are incredibly valuable: technical, personal, like soft skills, hard skills. And at the end of the day, that's what the PhD is about. If you're comparing yourself, if you're feeling like you don't belong, I think sometimes it's just helpful to have like a mindset refresh of like, actually, I'm just here to learn. And odds are, if you made it into a PhD program, you probably are decently good at learning. You've been doing it for probably a bit of time at that point. So just give yourself a break. Give yourself a little bit of just a sense that, it's okay to not know everything, and you will learn it.
You will definitely learn it over the years that you're doing your PhD. That is definitely true. And another thing that I wanted to point out was failure is just a part of science. Nothing's going to work all the time, and it's completely okay to fail, but you do have to try again. And this is a lesson I didn't learn during my PhD, because weirdly, the majority of my experiments worked. It was once I started my postdocs, I went to a completely different lab, and I would do experiments and I would get some odd results, or it just wouldn't work. And it was really tough, because I was like, dang, everything worked. Everything worked in my PhD. What the heck is going on? I even did the yeast 2 hybrid system, which is supposed to be like the worst, and it worked. First time out the gate, and everyone's like, what? So it was just really hard thinking, you know, I've got my PhD. This should be easy now. I should be smooth sailing. You know, I've got the degree. I know what I'm doing. And so it was kind of a bitter pill to swallow. I was like, actually, no, you're in a brand new place with new reagents. And it just didn't work all the time. And that's okay. You have to get used to it. You're testing hypotheses, and sometimes they're right and sometimes they're wrong.
Yeah. And I think that connects a lot too to, you know, my personal experience. I think that's so great that you had such a wonderful experience in your PhD of like having a lot of things work. I feel like from the beginning, nothing worked. I failed, like most of my experiments failed. I had multiple projects that had to be pivoted because everything was negative data. None of the experiments were working. So I think at the end of the day, kind of connect to that point too, of just that failure is a part of science. I also think, like you mentioned, it's really about just how you move forward from that failure. Like things are going to fail at some point, maybe not in your PhD if you're lucky. But at some point, things are going to start failing, and you need to know how are you going to progress and move forward. I think too that, you know, there's also a point too that you need to think about, when do I stop? I think sometimes we also get caught in this loop of like, okay, it failed, so I try again. It failed, so I try again. And then you do that so many times that it just eats up so much of your energy, effort, motivation. And so there are some things that it's like, this maybe just isn't the time to do this particular experiment. Like maybe another grad student's going to pick it up later. Maybe it just is never going to work. And so just so that I'm not in grad school for 20 years, we need to probably stop at a certain point and recognize, like, although this is failing, it's not a reflection on me or my abilities as a scientist. It's really just the nature of science. And so we maybe need to move on to something else.
Yeah, and come back to it maybe.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need a little bit of a break from that particular experiment. It works. It works. And I think one of the other things that I have seen play out numerous times is that people come into graduate school and they're used to being top of their class because they've done high school. They were probably one of the smartest people in high school. Then they've gone to undergrad and they probably did really well in undergrad. And now you've come to a graduate program and everyone is smart. Everyone is smart. So, you know, what is the likelihood of you being the smartest person in that room of smart people? And it might be that there's certain topics that you're really good at, but there's other topics that you might struggle with. And so you probably aren't going to be the smartest person in the room. And then you're going to go into another room and there's going to be full professors and other people who know an awful lot about the subject that you are learning. And so you may feel that you are inadequate or that you just don't know anything. And that's true because you're learning, and that's okay. Not everybody knows everything. And so you're there to learn, like Shayla has already mentioned. So you just have to embrace the fact that you don't know everything. You have the person in front of you in your class teaching you. So learn from them. Eventually, you might be able to compare yourself to their knowledge level. But as an incoming graduate school, there's just no way. There's absolutely no way. And there's no shame in that. You are not going to be the smartest person, because I think it's always a good thing to say there's someone smarter than you in that room on a variety of topics. It might be that you are a really niche person and that's the thing that you are a world expert in, and that's great. But it's not a James Bond film where you see a biochemist suddenly come out with a physics thing and they've just solved James Bond's mystery for them. You know, you're a biochemist, you know lots about biochemistry probably, but not about any other area of science. And that's just normal.
Yeah. And I think kind of connected to just like not being the smartest in the room, I think that also kind of ties into those feelings of imposter syndrome. And I think, like you mentioned, you know, like sometimes you're in this room with people who are incredibly intelligent. They're running labs. They've been doing this for maybe longer than you've been alive. And I think that I actually had some really great advice when I started graduate school kind of around imposter syndrome, which is just, if you really think these people are so intelligent and so smart that you're working around, why don't you trust them, that they believe that you belong in this room too? And hopefully, you know, I think that was something that was really valuable for me to just at least internalize a little, was that there were people who have PhDs, who've been doing this for years, who thought I belonged in grad school and gave me an offer to join the program. So I should believe them.
I like that. I like that a lot. Okay, well, I think that's covered mindset. So we'll wrap this video up. Please join us on Shayla's channel next, where we're going to talk career paths and agency. And we'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.